If you really just look at this series as Andy's story, then this really is one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Hi, everybody, welcome to another review of Pixar. And this time we are looking at Toy Story 3, the perfect finale to at least Andy's story. Um, I think when you look at this series as Andy's story, it is honestly like the perfect way to wrap things up. And when I get to Toy Story 4, I will talk more about like the whole Bonnie aspect. But I for the most part, I gotta say that this movie is really great. It's one of like the best series ever. Like Toy Stories 1, 2, and 3, they are just top notch. I love them to death, and they wrapped up the story good. I still think 2 is my favorite, just because I grew up with that one. But 3 is damn close. And in this movie, I mean, you even kick off like every movie starts with Andy playing with his toys, but this time they had a whole sequence where like he has his imagination play in where like Mr. and Miss Potato Head are um robbing from a train. Jesse, Woody, Buzz are fighting. Rex is a T-Rex. Like it was just fun to see like the growth of Andy. We get to see a preview of him as a kid, and then eventually now as a high schooler going into college. And for years, it's been a couple years, but he kind of stopped playing with the toys. And the if you followed Toy Story 2, this was inevitably gonna happen, and they were just kind of like adjusting to it because now up to this point a bunch of toys have left. Wheezy, the toy soldiers, even Bo Peep, they're all gone. So it's time for them to kind of like move on as well. Andy even calls the toys junk at one point. So that was unfortunate. It broke their heart. They were thrown in a trash bag, but they were gonna go to the attic. But the toys did not know that, except Woody, because apparently Woody was gonna go to college with Andy. Um, but anyways, they were doing some donations to Sunnyside, which is a preschool basically. On the way, so we all knew that's where this was going. Anyways, they go to Sunnyside. Woody follows them along, and in the process, they basically are happy with this new life because there's new toys, new beginnings. Everything about it is really great. For Sunnyside, or so they think. Woody leaves. He has to go back to Andy's, but anyways, Buzz and the gang, they basically are experiencing that these kids are too rough. They're really rough to play with. They are really insane. Just showcases how bad those toys are. But then again, somebody has to play with those guys. But it was just kind of like them setting the example that they are like the leaders, because Lotso is hands down one of the best animated kids villains out there. He's basically a guy who got screwed over because he and his friends, they got lost in the park. So when they walked back home, they were ready to be with their kid, but they got replaced. Well, at least Lotso did, not the other ones. And in the process, Lotso got more angry. He found Sunnyside, and he basically became the kingpin of Sunnyside, just dictating and telling everybody what there is, locking up the toys, making them feel like useless. Like it was just perfect for a villain. And then he even resets Buzz, and then he's like this villainous guy too. Woody finds out about this. He helps them bust out and go back to Andy. They find out that Andy was supposed to send them in the attic, but anyways, um, they have this whole plan to escape Sunnyside. It was perfectly done. The monkey, who's the cameraman, is watching everything. So like everything is just planned perfectly, well put together. That whole plan, the whole thing, and they just as they manage to escape, reset Buzz, who turns into Spanish Buzz. Um, they got it all, and then it looks like they were gonna get thrown in the trash. Uh, Unfortunately, they do as along with Lotzo. They end up all the way to a dump truck, and where um, they are on the verge of trying to escape. They even help Lotso escape. And man, when this happened, I was so angry at Lotso. They save Lotso, and then all he has to do is press the button to stop the machine from having them being dumped into the fire. He just says, "Where's your kid now?" and leaves them high and dry. That was just heartbreaking. I hated Lotso for that. Luckily, he got his comeuppance. He's gonna spend the rest of his life in basically wrapped on a truck. So kudos. Payback is a B. Um, Speaking of, Sid actually makes a cameo. He's actually one of the dump truck guys, like the one that goes bam bam and stuff. So that was funny. But man, that scene where like Woody, Buzz, and them, they were like all about to basically die in the fire. I knew for a fact they weren't gonna die. It's a kids movie. There's no way they were gonna end it that way. But I remember watching this in theaters, and I'm like, wait, what happened to the little aliens? They come into play. They are the ones who saves them with the claw, and it was kind of cool because they kind of wrapped up the moment of Mr. Potato Head finally accepting them as their boys. That was awesome. First in Toy Story 2, Mr. Potato Head saves them. Here, the boys get to save them, the aliens. This was just a really well put together movie. Ken, oh my god, Ken was awesome. I loved Ken in this movie, voiced by Michael Keaton. Falling in love with the Barbie that they had. He's just kind of like a man's man. He's like joking, like, I'm not a girl's toy. I'm not. Why do people keep saying that? Yeah, Ken was awesome, and eventually he's the one that took over. Sunnyside, once they got rid of Lotso, if you watch the credits, they show, him taking over Sunnyside. Like they're fair with the toys. They're always like, there's got to be room for people to play with the preschool, the baby kids. Even though they're insanely crazy, they play fair. So, anyways, we wrap things up with them going back to Andy's house. They clean up, and it looks like Woody is sending him to Bonnie, who got to play with her earlier. Like, if you guys remember, Bonnie finds Woody and she takes him home for a while, gets to meet some of the new toys that they got there, and that's how he eventually ends up finding his house and finding out about Sunnyside, all of that stuff. But now here, in this movie, Woody writes a note saying that basically tells Andy to send him to Bonnie, and Bonnie is like learning about all these toys, and then Woody actually throws himself in the box. That's still like a big nitpicky thing. Like, how did Woody not get caught like falling in the box or anything like that? But that's just movie not math that you have to go with. Bonnie sees the toy Woody, and then Andy was like, he didn't want to give it away, but he eventually does. Andy and Bonnie play for a little bit, kind of passing the torch, and then Andy saying, "Thanks, you guys." It was such a nice, perfect moment to wrap up this story, and the way the Toy Story series has become, it has just been super amazing. And this was honestly the perfect way to wrap up the trilogy. I know we have 4 coming in the way, and then this year we're getting Toy Story 5, but to many people, this was the perfect ending to the Toy Story saga. We could have moved on. And honestly, this was the perfect way to wrap up Pixar. If you pay attention, from 1995 to 2010, it's just been non-stop bangers. Because the next review will be Cars, then Brave, Monsters University, and it's going to take until 2015 to get Inside Out. And man, I do, wish me luck. Really wish me luck. But anyways, this movie gets an A plus hands down. It was the perfect way to wrap up Pixar and everything. Like this was like the peak year of Pixar. This was the best way to wrap up the story and our childhood. And yeah, I couldn't be happier to say that. Anyways, take care everybody, and I'll see you for Cars 2. You know, sometimes life is unfair. I'll see you guys with Cars 2 next week.